Living Corporate is brought to you by Doximity. Doximity helps over 2 million medical professionals. We are the largest medical network that includes over 80% of physicians and over 50% of physician assistants and nurse practitioners. We don't take that responsibility lightly and committed to working towards a more equitable world inside and beyond our virtual office walls. If you want to learn more about Doximity, check out your app store at DOXIMITY. That's DOXIMITY.
All right. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. This is Thursday. Always exciting time for us to join you from the access point. Love this space. Access Point is an incredible show on the Living Corporate Network. Living Corporate is a digital media network consultancy focused on workplace equity and inclusion. Living Corporate centers and amplifies Black and Brown voices in the workspace through digital media production and business-to-business consulting. Our network offers a variety of programming, and tonight we're excited that we get to bring you our favorite show, maybe because we're here, The Access Point. Access Point is a weekly webinar focused on preparing Black and Brown college students and early career professionals for the workforce by having the real nuanced talks they don't yet know they need. For this Thursday iteration of the show, we focus more closely on the real challenges that you, our listeners, are faced with as you move through the early stages of your career. Quick disclaimer. The thoughts and views expressed in tonight's discussion do not reflect the views of any organization the host or our guests may be affiliated with. I am one of your hosts, your co-host, Lonnie Morris. I am a professor and management consultant, and I spend my time helping incredible professionals make work a better place and helping you hate your job less. I want to open the floor for my amazing co-host, Dr. Wendy Edmonds. We also have a guest tonight. Let's see if we can get him to chime in, and we'll have our co-host speak a little bit later. Jamaal Boykin, are you available? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you give a brief introduction to the people?
Hey, everybody. My name is Jamaal Boykin. Professionally, I am a senior counsel in-house for a company called Assurian. So very, very corporate here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Thank you so much. That's such a brief introduction to all the wonderful things that you do, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And I think we've got the sound ready for Dr. Edmonds. Are you there?
Hi, everyone.
Yay.
I am Wendy M. Edmonds. I am an author. I am a management consultant and also a professor and a researcher who focuses on toxic followership. I want to make sure that you don't follow people down a bad road.
Oh, I needed you in my life 20, 30 years ago. I'm glad you're here today.
Right.
Today's show is important, and we purposefully had this show on the last day of the month because this, of course, is Pride Month. And so we are talking about allyship, pride, and what that means for the LGBT plus community in 2022. So I'm so excited that we get to talk about this. And we really framed it around the end of the month to really help us think about what happens next. And we have a lot of these single holidays, months-long celebrations, and we want to really talk about how do we anchor these things in our lives and in our workspaces so that we do the work necessary all year long. But I know before we get started down that, something really incredible happened today. And Dr. Edmonds, you said, make sure we start with this. I'm going to open it up for you.
That's right. And we want to just relish in the moment of joy that we experienced today watching Justice Brown Jackson get sworn in as our first African American female justice. Right, for the Supreme Court. And it was just wonderful. And I hope that every child, especially every little Black girl, watch that and can sit and say, that could be me one day. And so I just want everybody to know that changed my whole world, just watching that. And I'm glad that I lived to see it. So there's more to come. There is more to come. And let's just celebrate for that moment. How about it?
I love that. And I think it's so timely that we have an attorney on the call with us today, or on the show with us today. Amar, you want to chime in on this? What does this mean for you and your profession? What does this mean for us in this space, in this time right now?
I wasn't expecting a question, but I just I'm gonna follow Dr. Wendy's suggestion for today. I want to focus just on the historical value and nature of it, and be hopeful that she's going to be able to, and notice I said be able to, represent us in the most positive way, in the most effective way. I have a lot of thoughts on what that will, in reality, will and will not mean for the United States and laws. But I think it kind of rains on the parade of today. So I just want to focus with Dr. Wendy say and just celebrate her and what this means for little Black girls and little Black boys, actually, for what that means today.
Absolutely. And we're going to invite you back for that conversation you're holding back on.
Oh, I accept your invitation. Not
Yes.
Dr. Morris.
Like, oh, I was like, oh,
well,
that's strange, because I wasn't gonna let him hold back. In fact, my notes right here say, well, no,
Go for it.
I think this is really important, right? This is contextualizing what we're talking about. We started out saying this show is about allyship, it's about pride, it's about LGBT plus community and what it means for us right now. But I think there is something very significant about the juxtaposition of this conversation with her swearing in today, because I'm thinking, understanding what we're seeing with the Supreme Court right now, with her joining the court right now, our reach of its decisions for a bunch of different things related to civil rights in this country and all the things we've been debating about the Constitution. I think there's some really important conversation that can come out of this when we start thinking about what this means for Black and brown people in the LGBT community going forward. I think that's a great starting point. Now, Jamaal, you are the attorney, and I will say, if you say we're going to table that till later, I will definitely invite you back for that conversation. But I think it'd be a great way to start off this conversation about closing out Pride Month and thinking about what's next.
Let's do it.
Oh, well, okay, let's do it. Well, first of all, I just want to reiterate, because by the end of my monologue, you may not believe me, but I'm very excited and very proud to have her on the court. I celebrated for a few seconds, but the overwhelming emotion that I have for her, for Justice Jackson, is Sister Girl's about to be tired and stressed, and she's really going to be fighting every second that the Republican Party has a majority in that. And I don't know if it's going to translate to anything meaningful for the historically, disenfranchised or the minority in this country, because I think the momentum that we have now, because of Trump, and because of he has given the Republicans and our judiciary, evidently, is that there's war with everybody who's not a white male. So from that perspective, like I know dealt with when I was litigating in the courts, albeit in Tennessee. I just can't imagine being at that level in this environment with the things that we're having to face and to be in that seat that she's in.
So you say there is war with everybody who's not a white heterosexual male?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it used to be quiet. It used to be microaggressions. It used to be walking away wondering if that's what you just experienced. And we have graduated to absolute, like, an affront. Like, there's no question when you're experiencing it. And from the legal perspective, and just keeping it in the framework of courts, the judge, the bench, the courtroom was the last place that it was obvious. Like, when was coming up. And now it has shifted. There's no question. No question when you walk in, they want to make sure you know you don't belong. How'd you get here? And it's not just the judge, it's everybody who's employed by the courtroom. So it's the court officer who assumes you're lost, or, all those things. So that's been
Wow.
my experience,
Mm-hmm.
as a 40-year-old, not 50-something-year-old.
Mm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and just looking at like the breakdown of the courts and, this political environment in Washington, like my heart breaks for her, and I'm actually stressed and afraid for her, much like I was President Obama. I remember at the television, like, get in the car at his inauguration parade, like, stop all this walking, get in the car, and that's the same feeling I have for Justice Jackson.
Wow.
Experiencing
I
that
did,
level of
Dr.
stress.
Yeah, Dr. Winnie, I didn't want to rain on it, but Dr.
No,
Morris
no,
made me, so.
I don't think that's raining on at all. I think that's an important reality check for us, and I think it pairs well with Wendy saying, "Let's celebrate this." And we talked about even in last week saying, as we take stock of what's happening, we have to approach all of these when we're in this space. When you are a person of color, when you are a person of color who's in the LGBT community, you take all of these things with the good. And we always carry the bad with us because we know there is more. We know it's not just the swearing in today. We know it's not just the historical moment of this, but we know that all of the things accomplished are constantly under attack. And it doesn't change. Put a new face there that represents us, that carries our history, that carries our legacy. But it means, as you described so eloquently, it puts an incredible burden on their shoulders.
It does, and that's what they live with all the time. So we saw what happened just during the hearings. That was just a taste of it. But we also know the term racial battle fatigue, right? And we can take racial out and put, the Black woman battle fatigue, the brown woman battle fatigue, right? We can
The
put
gay men battle
fatigue. You can put that in there, and it's the same meaning. The exhaustion from dealing with the macro and microaggressions on a consistent basis, even from a systems level, right? Not just in that one circle, not where you are, not just that job, but at a systems level.
So let me ask this. If that is our current situation and our status quo, right? We operate at that level all the time and are closing out this incredible celebration of pride, right? Throughout not just our country, but throughout the globe. It's been an incredible celebration. We've watched some of these. Then let's talk about, why is the idea of pride in this conversation of allyship, why is that still important right now in the workplace?
One is because the LGBTQ plus community is also seen as the marginalized community group of people that have experienced discrimination. And so the workplace has to build this, safe space within a work environment. It's important that they do that. It's necessary.
I agree with that, and I will say, historically, the only way we've been able to move this needle in this country on any issue about equality, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, it has been at the core of the movement financially motivated. Even the Supreme Court case that developed like our whole Title VII system is based on commerce, not the humanity of it, but how the racism in this country impact commerce. So for pride in the workplace, it's the one place that I don't care how extreme you are, you're not with your money. So we're using that as a vehicle to get people accustomed to conversations and seeing people show up at work different and being restricted from being able to say these foul and crazy things, and hope that we develop some habits as a society. So that's why I think it's important. Churches don't work, you can't have a movement start in the church and start acceptability of everybody in the church, as odd as that sounds, because people can resist and push back. But the one place people just won't is when it impacts their family and being able to live and live well. So that's why I support it. Now, I do get very irritated at how commercialized companies have made it, but I still find that to be historically the only way we move the needle on things like that.
You mean you don't like your rainbow mayonnaise for this month?
And Oreos. Like that freaks me out. It's like, why do you have rainbow Oreos? But I mean,
oh my
well,
God.
it's also go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I get it. Like I get, because they're the younger generations, and I can say that now as a 40-year-old, they thrive. They love it. Like they love labels. They love being able to show their support of whatever issue. So I get it from that perspective. But I got irritated when I go on LinkedIn and every company has a rainbow logo this month. It's like, come on, y'all. So
I think to some extent it can diminish the real true meaning of what allyship is about. It really diminishes it almost to the point where it makes it hokey, right? With that. So there's a level of lack of compassion with companies, and almost to the point where we have to do something. Let's make an Oreo cookie. Let's do something. Let's join in. Not serious thought.
Yeah, they tried it with Juneteenth though, Dr. Wendy. You remember last
month?
I
do
Walmart
remember.
So we didn't let them have it. I'm happy
I remember that
my brothers and sisters of color put their foot down, but that's just how America does it,
That's funny. I was on the phone with the client 2 days ago, and she said, I still am not comfortable with saying Happy Juneteenth. It just does not flow off the tongue right. Because I don't know that we're celebrating, right? It's sort of a commemorative, but not necessarily celebratory. So yeah, really, really weird about that.
And that doesn't have the same meaning to everybody like it may for you and I and Jamaal, right?
Yeah. So I want to continue with this a little bit, and as we think about the idea of pride in our workspaces, and this is, I think, another one. The idea of coming out at work, and I'm gonna tell you why this comes out to me. Right? Why is this still important, or is it still important and still relevant? Because I just saw. So we saw earlier this year at the Essence Black Women in Hollywood event. What is it? Is her name Ajane Ellis? I think that's it. That there was a big to do about her coming out and acknowledging that she was bisexual. Hadn't done that before publicly. I think she sort of things I read said she that it wasn't a secret, but she hadn't shared it in that way. And then something just happened over last weekend with the delegate in Virginia, Kelly. Is it Converse Fowler? And she did the same thing. There was a pride event over the weekend, and she announced it at the same type of thing, that she had been in relationships before and it wasn't necessarily private, but she hadn't publicly said anything. And so my question around this, as we think about sort of transitioning out of Pride Month and the commercialization of it, all the things we're discussing and the pressure behind it, is the idea of coming out, the action of coming out, still important at work?
I think it depends on what your role is. Like, those people you named are celebrities, politicians. I almost think they have, if they're comfortable doing it, an obligation to do it, because they're different. They have a platform. Yeah, I think, yes, they do. It's important. For me, nobody knows who Jamaal Boykin from Humboldt, Tennessee is.
You're right. You're right about that.
Before you could. Right. So I don't find why I need to come into a room and announce who I'm sleeping with. My philosophy has been, I don't talk about it. I definitely don't deny it. I just talk about and live my life just like a normal person. And I think that's the point of the movement. Like, we're the same, right? But the opposite, the scale to that is, when I finally come around to talking about my spouse, who is a man, then I'm accused of being closeted or hiding it. So it's a very frustrating thing for every Joe like me. But if I get appointed to the Supreme Court, I'd come out.
You know what?
But just going, swiping my badge to go to my little, don't worry about who I go home to at night. But I think it's important to still be you, right? So be very protective of conversations around you. Be obvious and out front in supporting, LGBTQ initiatives at work and conversations. And people will assume just by you doing that. But as far as having an out moment, I don't find it necessary for me.
Now I'm going to take a different spin on that. I am married to my husband, who is a male, and we've been together 40 years. But here's the thing. I don't really think it's anybody's business. I mean, whether you're a celebrity, a politician, it really isn't that big. And this is me personally. So I think people want to know because they want to be able to place you in a category somewhere. I think it's the curiosity of, I have to know because I need to know where they stand, where do I put them? Where do I categorize them? It really is not important. I don't want to hear about anyone's bed life, no matter what they are, right?
Yeah.
And who they choose to be. I'm not interested. There are so many things that are important on our daily life that we are faced with. It is not who you go home with, who you're married to. It just isn't. And so for me, that's a non-issue.
I can agree with that, Dr. Wendy. I think the only that tips my opinion towards if you have a spotlight, use it, goes to my job. Like, I know discrimination exists. I know how people assume that something is different about Jamaal. So I would like those celebrities to be able to say, like, remember you loved me, and this was a fact you didn't know. And it's like, because like that comes from with it. Because like everybody thinks the world we're in, if our department is overrun with gay people. And then I like to, in every space, personal, college, friendships, family, like even my family, I've never had a conversation with my family that I'm gay. Never. But there's no question that I am. You know what I mean?
Oh, but I told them.
They probably do. When you came to homecoming, it was like, yep, Jamaal's gay, so it's free. But like, yeah, I agree. From one side of that, I agree. But the only reason I think you have a spotlight, use it so you can let these people know, like these ignorant people, and I mean that in the less aggressive way possible. As I can't say ignorant, is that like what you're afraid of is not even logical, right? And then I don't like people pretending to be ignorant. So it's like, I don't know any gay people, so I don't know why I should support it. None of my people are gay. And I want, if you have that spotlight, your favorite football player is actually gay. Just from that perspective.
So this is interesting, right? Because I think throughout my career, I've tried to be, and so this is sort of the cliche guy, right? So I didn't want to be the Black Lives Matter guy at work, not because those issues aren't important, not because I don't support those things, but I didn't want to be seen in that light. Like, I try not to be the rainbow flag guy at work because not because those issues are important, because I don't want you to see it as, oh, here's Lonnie with his gay agenda again, right? But I think what's really important though, because I will always, and what I encourage the people who I've mentored over time, who I've supervised over time, who I've collaborated with over time, is I will always stand up for what's right. Always. I will always confront injustice. So that doesn't matter who you are, right? So if it's a woman, if it's a straight woman, if it's a bisexual woman, it's a man, the entire thing. So I am tuned in to the spectrum of good and bad behavior at work, and when the organization is at fault, and when people need to do better. And I will stand up for that, and I will speak up for that. Now, just happen to be a gay Black man who's talking about those things. but that shouldn't be what leads.
Right.
Right. The other thing, though, is you become the spokesperson. So
Yes.
that
Yeah.
deters people away, too. So every gay issue, what do you think about that? What do you think about this? And why do y'all do this? And not only is it increasingly likely I'm going to get fired if you ask me those dumb questions, I just don't have the time. You know what I mean? It's like, this is not what I get paid to do.
So I want to stick with this idea of getting fired, right? And not that that's always the outcome, but I want to connect it to something that I read, something else that happened over the weekend. And so think of it this way. So I saw this story about our favorite mayor, Lori Lightfoot, up in Chicago. And after this Supreme Court decision came out, she made some colorful comments at a function, so the Pride function in Chicago, and she gave Justice Clarence Thomas the F flag. And really, what she said was regarding his suggestions that it's not just Roe versus Wade that's going to be rolled back, but there are other ideas, other decisions, other precedents that we need to take a new look at now, reconsider. And so her comments were about him attacking those rights, right? Civil rights across the board. And so my question along the lines of this is sort of our narrative, right? This is a story which you talk about is standing up for something, then becoming the go-to person for it, and then being penalized for it. Is that our story is that we make progress as a people, then some of that progress might be stripped away because things change. Then we stand up for equality and fight against inequality, and then we're attacked for that advocacy. How do we manage that? How do we do that differently in this space in this year? Or should we get Mayor Lightfoot on here to tell us?
I love to hear her thoughts.
Call her up.
I love to hear her thoughts on it. I don't know. This is we have to do it differently, but I think it's a harder chore. Like you just described the cycle, but the one thing that is missing this time around is that I think the majority of our people who are brown and who are part of the African American culture have lost our focus. So where before there was, to an extent, our elders or whomever were able to say, like, we had won. You know, like, this is just a battle to the war, more to come. Where this time, I feel like it's a gut punch, and it makes me more sick to my stomach because I don't think we have the wherewithal as a people, the African American community, and I may get some flack about this from your fans, to know what to do, are interested to know what to do, interested in doing it, and realize the importance of it. Because I feel like we've lost the mark as a people.
You sure know how to bring us down, bro.
This is you know? So I don't know. I don't know the solution. I don't know how we sustain it. I don't know how we re-engage. But there's a lot of differences that bother me. The fact that this time there is a black man saying, hey, let's go get some more civil rights from these people. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how to handle that. And then, you know, we have a huge population of young people, and the age group to be considered young is bigger than it's ever been before. Now it's like 13 to 50. Where we're following the latest trends in social media and what's hype, and we're just not focused on what's important. I would be happy to be wrong, but I think most younger people don't even realize the close proximity and connection between Roe being overturned and separate and equal. Like, it's
right,
not,
and
it's not
because
far apart at all.
because now same-sex marriage is going to be under attack, right? So all the things that have been rolled out are possibly to be rolled back.
Rolled back in an environment where nobody's even interested in hiding the fact that there's disdain for this group. Or even in the 50s or 60s, you had the crazy bulls of, you know, Alabama or whatever else.
Right.
But there was always enough, at least common sense, to make it seem benevolent. Like, we want to protect our women, or we want to protect the black students. We don't want to put them in an environment where they're going to be in danger. Now it's like, we don't like y'all. We don't like y'all. We think you stink. We don't think you're smart, and this is why we're doing it. And that's the difference. And I don't know how we compensate.
And it
for
seems
that.
like that's just enough justification for people to behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the danger of the time that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I wanted to. I have a statistic I wanted to read.
Please.
From McKinsey and Company study that was conducted on 2,000 employees. We talk about allyship and why it's important in the place, why it's needed in the workplace. We talk about psychological safety. And it's one thing to have that training for that, making sure that it is an initiative of the organization. But during this study, this says that, and this study was conducted in 2020, the LGBTQ plus employees also faced discrimination, not necessarily on the job where they worked, but from clients, vendors, or other business partners. So that means they can actually work at a place and they can feel comfortable. But what about the people coming in to conduct business? In one instance, a client asked that the colleague asked that they be removed from a team.
Oh, wow.
Because they were not happy a gay person was on their project. And that's from the qualitative research. Yeah.
Don't they know how creative we are?
So how are they protected in the workplace? For real this time, right?
I will say you find you a good plaintiff's attorney, and they're going to say by Title VII. Like, and we talked about this, before. Like, there's liability to that employer if they don't take the steps while that employee is there at work doing the function and the scope of their job. They have an obligation to protect that employee. So there's not a lot of difference, from my view, from your coworker making gay jokes and them doing nothing about it than this customer who comes in, right? So I would say start there first. Morgan, call them. They'll do it for free. Run it by them. But I will say that's a good measure to really call your company out if they're serious about this environment that you think you're protected in. If you're raising the alarm and they do nothing, then surprise, that whole environment where you think you're safe is a farce. I will say with my company, we specifically had conversations about this, like what the proactive plan will be if we have a vendor or if we have a contractor or a customer come on site, and then we proactively made our stance. So it should be hand in hand. If you're at a good company, they should have thought this through, have a policy catered to the vendors, to the contractors, and to the customers, what will and won't be tolerated. And when they're faced with a decision on how to protect this employee, you should see them following through.
And you know what this reminds me of, and I don't know if the two of you saw this. This just happened 2 days ago. In Kentucky, the 2022 Teacher of the Year for the state of Kentucky quit. He just quit this year after earning the designation of Teacher of the Year. Said quit because of homophobia. I've been here, proving myself, doing the work, outworking people around me, shining, bringing people along, mentoring, getting people up to speed, but it's still hostile for me. It is still hostile, even at the pinnacle of this work, to receive the state's highest honor for this work. He said, I can't take it anymore.
It's a sad state. It's sad.
It's sad.
That is very sad, because it doesn't matter how much you give, how much you do, how much you bring. People are not going to let you forget the choices for your lifestyle. That's
Well,
what that
I'd argue,
says.
hey, let me just say this. If it was a choice, for me, somebody else made it.
Mm.
Because this is not a choice I would make at all.
Yeah.
That's the most sincere thing I will ever say in my life. And it doesn't anger me anymore when
Mm-hmm.
people say that or suggest that is a choice. I've dealt with it enough in therapy to let that go. But I want that said. Like for me, it's not a choice. In fact, there was a lot of years where I would pray every day that this is not what my life would have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people need to understand that. And I think maybe that's how we move the needle too. Because I think a lot do believe it's a choice. Now, the choice that we are making is to not lie, to not conform, to not bring another female into, chaoticness just to satisfy family and employer. That's the choice we're making, but not whether we choose to be gay or not.
And so for this teacher, I mean, the hostile work environment is for what? Right?
Yeah.
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 And it's non-productive in every aspect.
Yeah.
And they would risk losing someone with national attention.
Mm-hmm.
They would risk that
Mm-hmm.
to make a point.
Well, somehow reconnected to the fact that the gay people have been successful in their agenda pushing.
Mm.
That's how they're able to sleep with it.
Wow.
And there's always, especially for gay men and women of color, there's always a discounting of their abilities and what they bring when they find out that they're gay or bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. It's
or anything else on the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's see if we can wrap up sort of all of these complex ideas that we're discussing about coming out of Pride Month, continuing with Pride as we go forward, acknowledging people's experience and their lives as whole, authentic. I was reading the Human Rights Council. Human Rights Council does a corporate equity report. Make sure I give you the right report. The Corporate Equality Index. So they do a corporate equality index. They have a 2022 one. And what I love about this is it really is their work, and this is actually their 20th year of this work, of assessing organizations and all these things related to the spectrum LGBT folks in the workplace. And so they are their measures are related to driving equality and family formation, raising the standards for transgender inclusive healthcare, best practices for utilizing intersectional examination of workplace inequality through training and data collection, mandatory gender transition guidelines and workplace policies to promote and ensure gender inclusivity, and comprehensive guide available to LGBT plus healthcare resources and services to ensure accessibility to healthcare, right? So the organization takes a very, very comp look at how people provide access and how organizations create a space for you to be allies and support. As we close out this conversation, what I'm thinking is, how do we springboard off this work that they've been doing for 20 years, put it in the context of the things that we're talking about right now with the changes of the court, with we see people who have been marginalized and successful still suffering from the same things. I think this idea about Clarence Thomas's comments, particularly for someone who comes from a marginalized community who's benefited from allyship in his own way, right? What do we need to do as Black and brown professionals right now to ensure the people coming behind us, the people that we touch, the people that supervise us, the people that we lead are having a better experience? How do we, and not just for LGBT people in the workplace, but how do we also be better allies to other people who are marginalized and need that support? What do we do?
I think we have to do a job of spending time helping people to understand and accept that these types of inequities, these types of discriminatory practices are real. And they're real at every level, in every space, all the spaces that we're in. But we have to take responsibility and use our voice, our power, our position to create allyship. Not just talk about it, but be about it. We really have to make sure that we're doing the work as well, because people are going to learn by what they see us doing as opposed to hearing us talk about it all the time.
Right? That's a standard leadership practice and value, model of behavior.
That's right.
So for me, that question is personal because I have a lot of guilt about not doing the right things as I, for lack of a better term, ascended to where I'm at. There's no excuse, but my rationale was very much that it's a problem. I am a problem in this space. And although I'm able to survive, nobody's bothering me. I can't be lumped because a group of us is a problem for them. And I may not be allowed to survive in the space. So for much of my early career, I think I had already decided I wouldn't do that with other Black individuals. But other gay individuals, if I saw any hint of it, not that I'm masculine, but I would just, stay away from it. And I've evolved this company in these roles I've had to recognizing that I hindered us and I hindered our progress. So much about what Dr. Wendy said, yes, we have to do. But we have to be bold enough to show numbers. We have to be bold enough to first show camaraderie to our gay brothers and sisters, transgender, all of that, all of us who live on the spectrum. That's first and foremost. And then the same problem I have with Democrats right now, because I'm very liberal, is the problem I think we have with my fellow LGBTQ community members. We get in positions of power and we somehow, I'm not proposing we do the wrong, but we're so focused on doing the right thing. When there's an open position, I want to follow to the book the hiring process, the interview process, the recommendation process, or whatever. Well, that's not what the other side has ever done. So my commitment has always been, like, I walk in a room, why do you like this candidate? They can do the job and they're gay. And I make sure as a lawyer, I say the first part first. They can do the job, and it's an opportunity for us to have a diverse candidate, is how I say it at work. But what I'm really saying is they can do the job and they're gay, and they won't have another opportunity anywhere else if I don't point that out. And we got to do much more than that. And I also am on a crusade of calling out microaggressions. So I'm sick of people living in this little unsaid, I didn't know. I'm telling you, I didn't like that email, and this is how I felt and what the meaning is. And I think that's what we do for the people who come behind us, because they don't have to do that. If they don't have to call out microaggressions, they're already above and far ahead of where I was as a young professional. So that's what I think needs to happen, because I don't think we're gonna get big Martin Luther King and civil rights moments. I don't think we have those, but I do think we chip away at it over the next few years.
With the understanding that allyship comes with a cost. It comes with a cost. I was called out because I did use pronouns.
Pronouns, you remember telling me that. Yeah.
Yes, I use pronouns, and I mean, this person read me the riot act, and it was very interesting. I've heard about people who did not use pronouns, right? And being asked to, but I had never experienced the type of treatment that I got for using that. But I'm a big girl, and it's okay. I stand for what I believe in, and that's what it takes to do that. we have to understand that people are people. Honestly, that is what is most important, is what is in your heart. All of everything else, for me, is a non-issue. People make a bigger issue out of it than I do, right? So we have to remember that allyship comes with a cost, and you will be called out. Just be prepared.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for those sentiments and those thoughts. I want to, Jamaal, your thoughts about having not always done the right thing really resonate with me, because I think back to my younger self and when I was in pretty influential roles in my career, and sort of guided by what I mentioned earlier, trying not to be the rainbow flag guy at the office. However, I was always, as I mentioned before, looking out into how can I shepherd other people through, right? How can I provide a space? And what I found in doing that, and being not only a support person and a confidant for people who were in the same organization as me, and an ally to other people, that when I was not forthcoming about it, it created other challenges that I didn't recognize, right? So people were trying to understand, why do all the gay people come over to Lonnie's office? So there was a thing that was created and sort of bubbled into something like, what are you talking about? I am just giving these people the exact same opportunities you're giving others. And Dr. Wendy knows this, even in some more recent times in my career, when I've advocated for people who were being mistreated,
Yes.
that I had to suffer the consequences of that. But to your point, Jamaal, I went into it knowing that I'm at a point in my career, in my profession, and with all the things I've achieved and accomplished and done, that I can fall on the sword. And I know going into it, this is for the sword, right? I'm very clear about it, and I know that I'm doing it, and it is purposeful. In the past, I might not have been so mature and aware, not acutely in tune with it. But now I'm very clear about it. So I'm going to stand up for it. I'm going to tell you what's wrong. I'm going to tell you who you just offended, why that was offensive. I'm going to tell you who did it, right? I can give you the whole documentation of it, and I'll accept whatever consequences you want to dish out to me, because I'm not going to stand by and let you disrespect other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've learned ally. Nah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and that's, I wish my journey got me to. We're at the same point now.
Yeah.
But what's driving it is different. Like yours is very thoughtful and responsible. Mine was pure anger. It's like, I tried it the right way. I wore the suit. I didn't come in, using me leaks, vernacular. I did all of that, but then you still treated me this way. You know what I mean? So it's like, F it, so even as a black guy, it's like, I come in, I quietly argue, Your Honor, I'm prepared, but you still treat me like the N-word lawyer. So it's from those experiences, like, okay.
The gay N-word lawyers.
Yeah, right? Right. And then other things I think we should stop doing too. I caught myself doing this the other day. I had a very close friend who I consider to be open-minded, and I think she is. But she found out her husband was bisexual, had an affair, right? And I caught myself engaging in the scandal around that, And then I walked through the conversation like, I just said us that. Like, so think about the things that society has trained us to do, and just, just be thoughtful. Just be thoughtful.
I'm glad you mentioned it and you framed it as a scandal, because I hadn't thought of it in that language. But what I described earlier was sort of what I experienced in previous organizations, where I recognized that it was not a comfortable and safe space for LGBT people in that community. And so I was trying to use the power that I had, the social capital that I had, the political capital I had in the organization, to create space for that. So it was sort of this underlying thing, which is why you started seeing that people who appeared or who presented as openly gay and bisexual were coming around me all the time. But to your point, the other people in the organization, rather than recognizing, here is someone who is creating a space that's necessary, that we have rejected and that we have overlooked. Instead, it became the scandal. Oh, that's the gay office over there.
Yeah.
That's the risk. That's the risk.
That was the risk. Right. That was the risk. Yeah. And so when I finished, I accomplished the things I set out to do, then I left. Right. This is not the right place for me. So I think part of our challenge and responsibility in this is helping to create workspaces that allow all of us to present authentically and comfortably. It is to call people out when that is not present, to hold people accountable when they are the culprits, to pull people up when they have experienced bad things, and to celebrate those who make it through, right? And create new spaces for other people.
Well said.
That's heavy. That's heavy. But we get that on the back of all the things we talked about today. That's why we got the new Supreme Court Justice. That's why we got Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying, hey, Clarence Thomas, watch yourself. That's why we have the Kentucky Teacher of the Year saying, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. Those are the beacons that we look to figure out how to navigate this space. And so I appreciate you, Dr. Wendy Edmonds. I appreciate you, Jamaal Boykin, for helping me think through this, for helping us frame this conversation for people to continue to in their own discourse and dialogue, and for everybody who represents any organization that's listening to us right now, to hold yourselves accountable and put things in place. Any final words? Any final words for the people?
Well, I love the fact that you guys have this platform, that you've created this think tank. I love it. I love it. So congratulations on that, being successful and making that beautiful move.
Dr. Wendy, anything else? Go ahead.
It is. I just want to say thank you for this wonderful conversation tonight. I want to thank Jamaal as our guest. It is wonderful having you. And this is not over.
Absolutely. I have, let me say the last few things. Thank you, everyone who is listening, who listened to either us live or who listened to the recording of this. We appreciate you joining us for this evening. Connect with Living Corporate on all of our social media channels. On the web, it is livingcorporate.tv. On Twitter, you already know where we are here. LinkedIn is Living Corporate. And on Instagram, it is at Living Corporate. Jamaal, one last question for you.
I'm done taking questions.
Oh, well, I'm just going to make a statement. I'll make a statement that you can interpret as a question later. Is there a gay flag for Humboldt, Tennessee? All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Well, I get the answer.
Okay.
Answer. So when I was there, no. Absolutely. It was very much so Jamaal practicing. I want to dance with somebody in the bathroom. Very private. But I have gone back and there is. So
there you go.
Upset and jealous about it, but
that's all right.
How evolution works.
It was on your shoulders. You created that. You created space.
Kids in Humboldt now, so I'm the old. I'm the old auntie.
And on that note, good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
This episode of Living Corporate is brought to you by Blind. Blind is a trusted community of more than 5 million verified professionals, from startups to some of the largest companies in the world like Amazon, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, Google, JP Morgan, Meta, and more. Blind's mission of transparency seeks to break down professional barriers and silos at work so that you can make productive change and advance your career. It's a safe space to ask questions and get the real-time insights and perspectives from people who know what you've been through. On Blind, you can connect and have honest discussions about everything from compensation, company culture, performance reviews, promotions, and more. You can also join your exclusive private company channel to chat with your coworkers about company policies and what's really going on at work. And because it's anonymous, you can be honest and trust what you read on Blind. Download and install Blind from the App Store or visit teamblind.com to get access to the latest salary, company reviews, and interview experiences thousands of companies worldwide.